Oh, TNA, TNA, TNA. Once again, me, your humble fucking host who everyone hates, is right. And once again, the mainstream, the ignored, the visions of civilization, a major, once again, just like the country, just like the government, just like religion, a major professional wrestling company was wrong, and I was right. I told TNA 2 fucking years ago to ditch fucking Spike TV and go to IFC or HBO and to start to create edgier content. That it was a dead end doing what they were doing, they lost ratings, and that it was only going to get worse. Sure enough, here we are two or so years later, and here we are 2 or so years later. Spike TV has now canceled TNA. Anyways, Spike TV obviously got the last laugh, and it looks like fucking TNA might be going under as a result of it. And first of all, I just want to say, completely, pathetically, whatever word I'm looking for, fuck Spike TV. Fuck them. Fuck Spike. I'll give you an example of how they ruined TNA. A couple of years ago, I think it was about, it was in 2010 when All-Time Hogan came over actually. They had this great idea for a storyline involving wrestling bisexual, really their first openly bisexual, active bisexual wrestler. The first wasn't the guy from Primetime Players. The first was Orlando Jordan, who was an openly gay wrestler working at that time in TNA. He had worked, I think, in Ring of Honor and other places. He was working at TNA now, and they were bringing him in, and they had an ideal. So let's do a bisexual storyline. And they did do the storyline, except they had run a series of vignettes or promos for the guy where he makes out with his then boyfriend, who was kind of like a trink actually. It's kind of like more if you've ever seen porn. And he was going to, he would make out with that guy. He made out with a girl. They had a female wrestler involved in it, and he was bisexual. And they were into that to build up hype for the character. Had they done that, it might have worked better than it did. And if not, well then hey, at least they can see that people aren't reacting positively. They could have ditched the ideal. Instead they did it, and it didn't work, mainly because they didn't build up to it correctly as they had planned. Part of the reason they couldn't build up to it was because of Spike TV told them, no, you can't do these promos, you can't do these vignettes. And this is all the way back in 2010. And they said, well, you can't do it. Christians won't like it. Some of the more sensitive gay people might not like it. Lots of different groups of people will be offended. So you can't do this. So they didn't do it, and the storylines failed because of Spike TV. Again, the same company that warned ECW back when it was known as TNN, still pretty much the same company, a lot of the same people work for it, the same shithole. Those same motherfuckers are now here we are. It's amazing we're talking about this in the year 2014. They've now warned TNA. And it's unfucking real. And another reason why they might have canceled Impact is because of in part is because of Vince Russo. Apparently Spike TV doesn't like Vince Russo, and part of it is I'm sure part of it is his edgier writing style, where he will do sexual content, drugs, violence. That's the way he writes. That's why I and a lot of other people like him. That's what made that's what part of what made the Attitude Hour so great was Vince Russo, who wrote for it. Him and Ed Ferrara or whatever. And here he is in the year 2014 trying to write, and they fired him back in 2011. And the show goes to shit. 80-some thousand people leave. Here he is. He comes back basically to save TNA once again. He's writing great television. He's finally starting to turn the company around. They're doing great television with the New York City shows. He's writing great television. Everyone, even people who hate TNA, even people who hate Russo, have to praise the New York City shows he's writing. And what does Spike do? They cancel him because they don't like him. And another part of it is probably because they have, these idiots have a zero policy, um, zero policy, zero tolerance policy on violence against women. They they won't allow it. And Spike was planning to do a segment with Bully putting, they did a story leading up to a segment where Bully puts Dixie through a table. And Spike TV probably won't allow it. That's probably part of why they canceled him. And of course, you know, Russo had to have his fingerprints all over that. And they didn't like it. And they also did this back in 2010. I mean, you know, violence against women who wrestle in a wrestling company. Oh my God, can you imagine the world's going to end? Oh fuck, what should we do? Are you fucking kidding me, Spike? And they did this in 2010. Back in 2010, they was going to have a first blood match on Impact between a female wrestler known as Daphne and a female wrestler known as Kara, who went by the name Victoria in WWE. And they were going to have a first blood match. And the first blood match aired because the Spike TV, but they didn't have any blood. I mean, it was a first blood match with no fucking blood, and the people hated it. They left, and they turned the channel. Like, what the fuck is this? They complained. There's no blood. And why did they do that? Because of fucking Spike TV calling them at the last minute and say, no, we don't want no blood on our television show. If you show it, we're canceled. So they ran the match. They had to run the match because it's last minute. They didn't have anything else planned. They had advertised for the match, and they had the match, except at the end of the match, Daphne only had a small cut on her head, very little blood. It was hardly a first fucking blood match, and it was a joke. Because because Spike TV didn't want to show TNA with any blood. Spike TV, this fucking channel, the same channel that ran ECW out of business, that WWE told to go fuck itself because they hated having to deal with these idiots, is the same channel that now runs TNA. And is the same channel that sticks their nose in everyone's business. And I forgot exactly what I was going to say, but there's this another channel. They're now in the year 2014 driving TNA out of business. And they should go to IFC, they should go to HBO, and they should put on an edgier content show. And if they're going to survive at this point, they have to go all out. I mean, they have to take it farther in some ways than they had to there. I mean, they have to have complete nudity, not just bra and panties. They have to have fucking girls with their titties hanging out. They have to have fucking cursing. They have to have the F word. They have to have puddles and gallons of blood. They have to go all the way out. They have to have an extreme product like no other. You know, they have to do things like mock human sacrifices, stimulated torture. I mean, you know, torture scenes, stimulated sex. They have to go all the fucking way, because if they don't, it's not going to get over. And I just want to end this video by saying, unapologetically, fuck Spike. Fuck anything that looks like Spike. I don't know how you look like a television network, but if you do, fuck you. Fuck anyone associated with Spike. Catch Ebola and walk into the ocean. Screw you. I hate you. I mean, I know that's a little extreme to say about a fucking television network, and I don't fully mean that. Obviously, I don't mean it. But they suck. They suck. They've ruined pro wrestling. They've ruined their own television network. All they do is play fucking cops reruns, and I hope it goes under. My head's about to explode talking about it. They run a TNA. They run this fucking wrestling industry. They put WWE out. If WWE didn't have the brains to cancel on them before they could them, they probably would have run WWE. They ruined and they put ECW out of business, and now they're doing the same thing to TNA. So fuck Spike TV. P666.